You guys, I am so excited to have our next guest. She is somebody that actually has been so good to me over the years. She's actually one of the people that warned me when I accidentally revealed Sheena's baby name. She was actually the nice one of the people that like, hey, you might want to take this down. She's always been really great to me, and she is so talented in her own right. You now know her from a podcast, which I'm going to talk about because you need to subscribe to her podcast. It's called Jamie All Over. Now, the 2 episodes that have released this week are very heavy Vanderpump, but she talks to business leaders, thought leaders. She really talks to the gamut. It's something that you should have on your listen to list immediately. Also, she is one of the co-owners, investors of the Sugar Taco restaurant franchise. That is amazing. So she had a podcast that she released today that I think this is what the beauty of podcasting is, because when these immediate things happen, sometimes you have to wait, like Vanderpump Rules, you have to wait for months sometimes to get some of the story. And this was so immediate, and she asked all the right questions. And so she is actually doing me a huge favor by coming on, because this is night. She doesn't want to be doing this. She's great. But anyways, LYNN from Jamie All Over the podcast. Welcome to the show. So LYNN, welcome to the show. Listen, you have had quite a week. I don't know, what is going on, man? Like, how are you holding up? Because you're also one of the frequent co-hosts of Shenanigans. One of your best friends is Sheena. Is this blowing your mind like it's blowing all of our minds?
Absolutely. I have had such a crazy week. I actually was slightly off topic, but I was diagnosed with ADHD on Wednesday, and then all of this happened Wednesday night. So I would have liked to have taken this.
Wait, so you can't even concentrate on this stuff. You're all over the place.
I am overstimulated. And it's an official diagnosis.
Oh my. Okay, well, that's official. So hopefully we'll get the medicine to actually zero you in. But what I think is interesting, and I just want to point out once again, is that your podcast is great for so many different reasons. It's just so funny because it's so on the tip of everybody's tongue right now. I talked about it on today's show. Everybody's talking about it out there because you have an interview with, first off, you have firsthand knowledge of so much of this stuff because you actually have hung out with these guys for years and years. But now you had a guest on today that really gave behind the scenes information that gave us a peek into one of the pieces that we've been missing of the actual Raquel, Rachel, Tom romance.
Yeah, basically the timeline. And what was interesting about this is that we were there for it and we didn't even realize it. And so now we look back on the timeline of over the summer and when did this actually happen? And as we were also putting the pieces together, we realized, oh, it happened right after Boys Night, which is the episode airing today or tonight of Vanderpump Rules.
So basically you and Brett, the manager of Schwartz and Sandy's, who you've seen on the show now, guys, a couple of times, you guys, was it after Guys Night you went over to Saddle, which by the way, hysterical that it's Saddle Ranch, very LA.
Sandoval literally rode the bull before.
Of course he did.
I'm not going to finish that sentence, but
Raquel's like, yay. Well, that's the thing, is that like you've been around these people so much, I guess, even aside from the podcast and stuff. What I was saying, even when I've hung out with them, when it's not been like, I never thought anything of him going out all the time. I never thought anything, because when I was around, he wasn't like gunning for, when I was around, he wasn't gunning for women. I was at, by the way, your guest today, I'm sorry, what's his name again?
Kale Ramsey Ackerson.
He said I was at Coachella with them. I was there each day. When I look back at my memories, I'm like, Ariana was there the whole time. He was putting everybody on his shoulders. I didn't really think much of it. He's just so nice. But now, there was no part of you that, like, in retrospect, yeah, but there was no part of you that's like, why is she here by her? She just seemed to have gotten in.
I had 2 of those thoughts, and it was just quickly dismissed. One being, and I actually mentioned both on my podcast episode. First one was after I watched back the footage of the video I had taken. Now it sounds like I'm just a stalker taking video of like my two friends from the car, but that's not how it went down. And like Us Weekly and everyone who's picking this up, they leave this key piece of information out, which is that Brett and I did this as a joke, and we were kind of doing voiceovers for them. So he was Raquel, I was Sandoval, and we were just, you know, I was being my best eccentric version that I could possibly be. He was being Raquel, and it was, to us, it was hilarious. It was remember, was it Mystery Science Theater 3000 where they would sit?
Yeah, I mean, by the way, yeah, I know, yeah, where you would do the like like total voices. Wait, did you post this ever on Instagram?
No, and that's where I'm going with this. So we showed it to them after we finished. It's not like they didn't know we took video of them. They were cracking up, laughing at it. I had their blessing to post it. And then right before I posted it, I was like, I'm not posting this, because that was the moment to me. I was like, this looks way too intimate, and I don't want Ariana to get the wrong idea, and I don't want to disrespect Ariana. So I'm not posting this. And I just forgot about it after that. But I personally didn't think anything was going on. I just thought it looked a way that it actually wasn't. But little did I know something was actually transpiring, because they then left there, and we think this was the first night that they actually hooked up. And that will all come out in a storyline.
Will we get to see this video ever? Will we get to, are you allowed to even say, like, when you have a video like this actually could be I hate to say a key piece of evidence on a relationship, but this really is turned into something so much bigger than the actual show now.
It's crazy, but I mean, on one hand, we don't need any more evidence because they've admitted to it, you know? So it's not like, oh, this doesn't really prove anything.
Yeah,
know, what they've already admitted to. But I think we may see this, because when they when they started picking up again, and they're going to put, I don't know how many episodes towards the end, while this is all happening, the video was brought up, and I did sign a release for it. So I'm guessing it will be towards the end of the season, but no one's going to hear the voiceover. I'm going to assume it's going to be right.
Would it be great if the voiceover's left in there? That's like amazing. Wait, and have you talked to Brett in the last week?
I talked to him, but not about this, and not since my podcast came out. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, like, I was at Schwartz and Sandy's like before Christmas, and I met him and talked with him. He was such a nice guy. I mean, he's still a nice guy, obviously. I mean, he's probably going through a hell of his own, but I'm just so curious now. And this is another thing, is that I always assure the audience, is that this really was a surprise to everybody around, because there's a whole ecosystem. Like Vanderpump Rules, these are real people that actually have real lives. Like, you've been on the show a couple of times, but you're not a main cast member, but you've been around. Like, they still have lives when the camera goes off. Could you explain your relationship of, like, how did you become friends with Sheena in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back really, really far. I was good friends with Chriselle Staus, who
Christian from Selling Sunset. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
I was going to say your listeners probably watch Selling Sunset as well. This is a very reality-based podcast. So Chriselle and I were best friends for 10, 15 years. We lived in New York City. I was the first friend she made when she moved to New York City, started on the soap opera All My Children. So we went back a ways, and then we both ended up moving to LA. And then around that time, Sheena had a makeup line that we randomly sent to Chriselle. Talking about this now, it sounds so crazy that this is how we became friends. I was at Chriselle's apartment when she received the makeup. I was like, who is this from? Sheena Shea. You know, I think she's on that show, Vanderpump Rules. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. And then somehow that transpired to maybe Chriselle thanking her for the makeup, and then Sheena saying, let's all get dinner sometime. Because at that time, Sheena and her mom were big fans of All My Children. They were like into soap operas. Sure, they wanted to meet Chriselle. So Chriselle says to me, like, okay, like, will you come with me? I mean, it's kind of funny, like, making new friends as adults. It's like, I don't want to go to this like thing by myself. Yeah, to meet these people I've never met before. So I go to the dinner. Of course, we had dinner at Pump, and I met Sheena and her sister Courtney and her mom Erica that night. And this is just around the time when This Is Us there was like a pilot for it, but it wasn't out yet. And Justin Hartley was with us as well at the time. And I remember this night because he said to all of us, he's like, yeah, I shot this pilot. I think this show is going to do well. And here we are all watching right? We're watching the pilot for This Is Us. And I mean, it did okay.
That's great. Right? So, I mean, did you and Sheena hit it off immediately, or was it like a slow burn kind of friendship? Because, I mean, we obviously know it became a really, very solid friendship, but was it, slow burn at first?
No, we hit it off immediately. And Chriselle and I had invited her out to a couple other events. And then weird things started happening between me and Chriselle.
Yeah.
If you want to hear that story, you have to go really far back into Shenanigans, but we had Christine Quinn on and I explained the story there. I won't bore your listeners with that.
Oh, but wait. Nothing is boring at this point. I mean, we are so into this that like any kind of minute detail like is like some kind of puzzle piece, even if you're like, I'm like, oh my God, it's fascinating how this actually spans even other reality shows now.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is always like, you've been around these people for so long. You're used to a certain level of insanity in the way they live their lives or present their lives on camera. For this, did this even blow you? Like, this even blows me away for somebody that watches this nonstop because it is so real. I mean, did it feel the same way for you?
Absolutely. Shocking. It's because it's a betrayal that you can't even comprehend until now. Now this is all on our radar. Now everyone's looking at their friend and their partner and like, oh, could you do this to me? But prior to this was out of the realm of possibility of what people were capable of, as far as I'm concerned. And now it's this whole.
Well, I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, your honest thoughts, because listen, I was in love with him. I was the guy that's like, Sandoval's so amazing,
you
man.
were his biggest fan.
Oh, I mean, and it's always so funny because, I mean, she'd be like, yeah, or you'd be like, but what were your real thoughts about Sandoval before any of this? And did they get better over time? I mean, were they great from the beginning? What were your thoughts when you would hang out with them?
Listen, I think the only good judge of character here is Lala Kent, because I always liked him. I never once, maybe Stassi too. I think Stassi her radar was out for that, but I always liked him. I always thought he was a good friend to everybody. I thought he went above and beyond to make things special for other people. And I would never in a million years think that he would have been capable of doing this to Ariana.
Yeah, you thought like their relationship was solid. And by the way, that doesn't mean they didn't have fights or problems like that. Every relationship does. But for the most part, I mean, were you hearing tons of things about this guy sleeping around and stuff like that? I mean,
no.
I mean, we see those Demois things. Somebody was leaking from inside. Somebody was like saying that they had a suspicion of this from the beginning. I know Lala, like you said, always did. And I know she had even mentioned in a Heather McDonald Patreon that she had a suspicion about it, but that never went anywhere. I mean, this really is shocking. And then on top of it, and this is why it's so funny, because I don't know if you watch Summer House. Do you watch Summer House?
I do.
You're kind of like Danielle in a way, in that you go hard for your friends. Like, you really go hard for your friends. And not that Sheena doesn't, I'm not saying that, but I just noticed that you really, and so it is funny because your friend gets not roped into this, but like, dude, Sheena was on my podcast the day she was flying out to watch What Happens Live. And a big portion of the conversation was her standing up for Rachel Raquel. She literally was like, no, I'm a big sister to her. And she was explaining what she's, and I just imagine like Sheena was horrified in that moment of finding out.
Shocking. Complete. Like, having the rug ripped out from under you just doesn't even describe it, because she went so hard for that girl.
So hard. Yes.
More than anyone, and gave her a place to live. When her and James broke up and she had nowhere to go, she let her live in her apartment. She was there to give her support and confidence and just be her number one cheerleader. And so for her, the focus is and should be obviously on Ariana and what she's going through, but there are other casualties here. And Sheena is one of them because she lost two of her best friends. She's mourning that loss. And then she's feeling like the heartbreak and pain for her other best friend.
I just, it just really takes a lot for Sheena. Like, I mean, Sheena was going so hard. And by the way, I was kind of like, because I really appreciate Katie's side of a lot of this stuff. I really do. Like, and I was even in that interview going, I really understand what Katie's saying to the, but she was making me think, okay, you know, Raquel is so lost and Raquel is this. Now this goes I mean, also listen, I know she's 28 years old and I just don't think that's a child, you know, like I think there are certain like, I think we all know that's a bad thing to do. Even if Tom was the aggressor, we know that's a bad thing to do. And especially because I keep like her and Ariana hung out all the time, you know, like that's so mind fuck.
Absolutely. And I've been watching, gosh, I've been on my phone way too much. My vision is blurry at this
Yeah,
point.
by the way, Jamie sent me a couple of voice notes. She's like, I can't type anymore. My vision's really blurry. I've been way too on my phone. And I was like, welcome to life, Jamie. Like that's how I roll, man. Like my vision is just always blurry.
I can't imagine living like this. But over the last week or so, obviously, because constantly new stuff is coming out and coming out. And I'm seeing these montages of like, you know, their friendship, like Ariana and Raquel's, and it goes back so far. It's like you kind of forget, you know, how long they've actually been friends and known each other. So it's just.
And I want to point out once again to the audience is that Jamie is the funny thing about this is that Jamie has so many other things that she works passionately for. She's a passionate vegan. She's like so into business. She's all of these other things. So it probably is a hair annoying that you're really sucked into a Vanderpump vortex right now, even though I know you love doing shenanigans. I know all that stuff, but how annoying is this for you? Because you know, you're like, you know, how much can I live in high school? Or are you kind of like, let's go, let's roll?
Okay, so many things. I'm feeling many things about that. One, about my podcast, you know, when I was co-hosting Shenanigans, and I still come back and do it. We just did one today. Obviously, that podcast, it's an amazing podcast, but it's about pop culture and reality. Now, I have, like you mentioned, all of these other interests. So I started Jamie All Over to discuss veganism, animal rights, women in business, mental health, relationships, even the spiritual side and supernatural.
And you get really good guests. Like you get like really like good guests. So that's why it's funny. Cause I mean, I love Vanderpump. I fight for, you know, what I love so much, but that's what's just so funny is that your show is so much more. And all of a sudden your podcast, I'm guaranteeing you, if it hasn't already, will probably hit the top 10 of TV and film podcasts if it hasn't already.
It's currently number one in the US, Canada, and
exactly.
But I'm just shocked. It's not even like I'm bragging. I'm absolutely shocked. So I was talking to my mom and I was reading off all the countries we're in: Nigeria, Trinidad and Tobago, like all of these places, like United Arab Emirates.
You're huge in Trinidad. Huge.
Hong Kong, and number one in Iceland. That's bizarre to me. But just obviously to see how the world is so interested in this saga is crazy. But no, I never imagined. Like, on one hand, it's upsetting because it's like, I don't want to be number one for this reason. You know, I wish it was under better circumstances, but I have to keep telling myself, it's like, well, I have 60 plus episodes already done.
Yeah, hopefully they'll find those out too. Yeah. And like they'll take something from that.
Yes. And that's the response that I'm getting. And that's a positive out of this. But no, I never imagined I would be the one reporting on this. Like, this is your part.
Yeah, by the way, yeah. I'm not good at like I can't, I'm so awkward around people. Like I can't, you have such a front row seat and your guest was because your guest filled in, and that's why you got to go listen to this episode if you haven't already, because he fills in then from Raquel's point of view, where she's coming from. And this is one of her friends. And it's like really frightening because I mean, and just to be honest with you, and I've been honest with the audience, I've been around Raquel a lot. I've been, and it's like, she's always really nice. But like sometimes I've used the word vacant a lot. Like, I don't know, how usually you can get a read on somebody. Like I've hung out with you and you've been really nice, or you've like, I've just always been like, there's just like a blankness there that I can't, but it's not mean. She's never mean.
I absolutely agree. I picked up on that as well. So again, another story that I mentioned in this current episode on my podcast back
And
in
by the way,
October.
she had she had two episodes this week. First with Sheena, then this one, all in the same week.
Yeah, and what happened with that was that the second one that came out, which is titled Team Sheena, that was supposed to be my podcast for this week. But then I had to hold it for reasons I can't really state right now, but I had to hold it. I had to take some things out of it. And then Sheena said, okay, well, since you have to hold this one, come out to Palm Springs. Let's just do an impromptu episode. So I drove out to Palm Springs, hung out with her for the night. It was really nice to see her and relax out there. And so we did an episode, and that was called Catching Up with Sheena Shea. So that came out on Monday. And then all of a sudden after that came out, I got the green light to release this one. So I released it the following day.
Yeah, because you did this interview a little bit. I mean, you did this interview like 5 or 6 days ago, right?
It was, I think, on Friday. And so I released it on Tuesday.
So you had to hold it for a certain reason, but I also want to, I mean, I don't think you had to hold it for production. I don't think anybody, I don't think you've been, I don't think so.
A lot of people were asking, they're like, well, I thought you weren't, bound to any contracts. Why would you have to hold something for production? It wasn't production. And I can't really say anything more on it yet.
Yeah, of course.
We will.
In terms of being Sheena's friend, how angry are you though that Sheena got dragged into it in this very different way? Like, Sheena is a big part of this story now. I know you can't speak for Sheena, but being around her, has this stressed her out because I mean, listen, we see she's raising a family. We see Sheena is always a go-getter. She's always trying to get in there. This isn't necessarily the way she wants to get in places, of like being brought into the story in this way. I mean, as a friend, what is her mental state like right now?
She's having a difficult time because, I mean, aside from all of the betrayal that has been going on, in addition to that, this temporary restraining order was just more nonsense, and more pain to be caused, so unnecessary. And that's like, how could you do that to Sheena of all people, And so that's a whole other level that Sheena is now having to deal with. And that is, can be a stressful situation. So she's just trying to do her best to stay calm and be able to take care of Summer. Today she is getting a facial and taking some for herself. So she's just trying to.
Well, I mean, because I know Sheena likes to be in the mix, but I know she also doesn't like to be in the mix like this. I think there's a difference of that. And by the way, like I'm saying, like, I've had Sheena mad at me before. I was never scared of Sheena. I was scared of Brock physically. I was never scared of Sheena physically. I was just scared of Sheena emotionally. Have you reached out to Rachel Raquel? I mean, I know he had, your guest, but have you third hand been like, girl, what you doing, man?
No, I don't know if that day will ever come. I have nothing to say to her at this point, but I spoke to her on Wednesday before Watch What Happens Live. We spoke on the phone
because it was an exciting time. They were so like, and by the way, up until like after filming, that was a triumphant like experience for both of them. Sheena was excited to be there. Rachel was excited to be there, and they did good. It was funny. Like, that was all gravy. And then isn't it just bizarre? In fact, I was talking to one of the guys from Hollywood Raw that Adam Glenn, that said, oh, I was with Sheena that night. And all, like, it's just so weird how things can change on a dime. And I just want to also point this out too. Sheena did not know about the extent of this at all going into it.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah. Well, that's just, there's so many rumors that get put out there and stuff like that. So it's like, people keep liking to make up things. I'm like, you don't have to, this story is already bizarre enough, and you don't have to make up facts that go around it,
Absolutely. Yeah. The fact that, I mean, that was a major reason why I even put out that episode with Kale, because that was another thing going around within the podcast community and online. People were sending me things off of, I don't know if it was Reddit or whatever, I don't know, but I was just getting bombarded with people saying, hey, people think that you guys all knew, and you specifically, because of my story. about her lying or asking me to cover for something. And they thought that I knew beforehand.
Can you quickly explain that story really quickly? Would that be possible or?
Yeah, absolutely. I explained it all in detail on the podcast.
On the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I mean, this.
Yeah, I mean, real quickly, it wasn't about that. I had no knowledge of what was going on with Raquel and Tom. Are we calling her Rachel now, or Rachel Raquel, or?
I don't know. Everybody keeps wanting me to call her Rachel. I don't really personally care about the name change. Like I said to the audience, like, my name's Ryan Bailey, but when I first moved to LA, there was already a Ryan Bailey in SAG. So I went by Ryan Kyler Bailey because that's my middle name. Like, I don't really care, Raquel, Rachel. That doesn't even concern me. What concerns me is lying to your Ryan. Yeah, Ryan, R-Y. Yeah, exactly. There's so many names. I'm more concerned about the cheating and Ariana being hurt,
Yeah, no. So she had asked me to lie about that particular video that we were discussing earlier at Saddle Ranch. No, I'm sorry, not that video. A video that was taken at the Canyon Club. So she had taken video of James getting kicked out of Canyon Club, and another couple,
which we saw that night on the episode a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
that was a very small snippet of it, and they kind of did not make that a storyline, but there was a longer video. There were 2 videos basically, and she sent them into production. She took one of them, and someone who was there for the show, Tom's show, took the other video. However, I got into a bit of a scuffle with those people and shooed them away. So there was no getting them to sign any video release. So now Raquel turns in both videos to production and says they were my videos. But she didn't ask me ahead of time if I would cover for her and do that. And I was like, why can't you just say they're your videos? And in fact, in one of the videos, I'm in it. I'm like, Raquel, I'm in this video. You can't say
So Jeremiah thinks it's your.
No one noticed, but I'm just like, come on, guys. So
that's wild.
Yeah, but I think, and this is speculation, but I think she didn't want to tell production that she was the one that took the video because she didn't want the wrath of James. So instead, I got the wrath of James at SUR, and so none of that aired.
Jamie, Jamie all over. You think you're so cool. Well, wait. What do you think, like, from knowing all of these people, when people now are chiming in of like, DJ Tips, like, it's disgusting when we watch these people cheat on the show, just even as a viewer of the show, even if you're not friends with Sheena, what do you think about when people are chiming in, when it's like, come on, guys, you've done like similar things on the show? Is there a part of you that's like, that's interesting?
None of us are perfect, right? We all make mistakes, but this is just a whole other level. And I think everyone has a right to be shocked about it, and.
Yeah. So, I mean, as winding down here, you've given us so much time already for a very surprise interview. And the thing is, you know what, like, genuinely, it's like, Jamie is so full of like business, like knowledge, and like that, like I always want to talk to her about business because she already had like a very clear, you have a very clear plan for how you want things to go, don't you? For like your show and you seem to constantly strive for that. And this is nothing to do with Sheena or nothing to do with Vanderpump Rules. Have you always been like that? Like, is this something that you just found a lot of motivation in the last 5 years, or have you always been like this?
I have not always been like this. No. In fact, I was in commercial real estate for over 10 years, which by
the way, you guys, she was in an episode showing Katie and Ariana. There's something about her locations. That was Jamie.
And I don't do real estate anymore. I still have my license. And that day they were actually supposed to film at Sugar Taco, which is across the street from that location that I showed them. And they were supposed to film there with a different real estate agent who ended up something fell through, basically.
Yeah.
And another spot that they were supposed to look at fell through. And I knew the owner of this spot. It was right across the street from where we were going to be anyway. And in a way, I kind of shot myself in the foot because then the Sugar Taco scene got scrapped. And now I'm putting on my real estate hat instead. And now I have all these people like, I didn't know you were in real estate. That's so cool. And it's like, I would have much rather have promoted Sugar Taco, which is what I'm actually doing now.
Wait, because by the way, Sugar Taco keeps opening Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
It keeps opening locations, right?
We have 2 open right now, one in Sherman Oaks, which is where the filming was supposed to take place, and one on Melrose in LA. And so we are now.
And how would you describe Sugar Taco for somebody that's never been there?
It's a plant-based Mexican restaurant. It's fast casual. We keep it very accessible, very affordable for anyone to be able to eat there. It's fun, and you can get tacos, burritos, quesadillas, the best vegan churro donuts you will ever try. And it's all cruelty-free, it's all plant-based. And it's funny because sometimes we get Yelp reviews, which are 1-star reviews. And these are like the best advertising, because it's from dudes who come in who didn't know it was vegan. And they're like, I loved my taco and it was so good. And then I found out it was vegan. And it's like, thank you for the best
disgusting.
advertising.
Disgusting. This is disgusting. Well, but I mean, it's better than Schwartz and Sandy's reviews right now. I just will say that. Wait, do you guys serve booze there too, right? Or do you serve beer?
Yes,
yeah.
Beer, wine, margaritas, sangria, all of it.
When I used to work at the acting studio, I was taken there for a work lunch on the Melrose location. I don't know if but it was awesome. Like it was awesome. But that's what I'm saying, is that like you have so much stuff going. So it's really kind of funny to talk to you about something so remedial, but something that I love so much. And you're involved in such a very specific way. Over the years, though, you've been around these guys forever. Like, do you want to tell me about any kind of secret relationship with you and Sandoval or anybody? I mean, is there any kind of thing that we can, like, can I start some kind of rumor? Like, have you ever fallen in love with any of the Vanderpump cast?
You know what? There's a guy that's going to be on Winter House. Maybe his name is Alex. I think he's from Below. Do you know about this? Is he from Below Deck?
There's 2 new Below Decks. There's Below Deck. Is it the one that everybody's saying with the curly hair and the...
Yes.
You like that guy? Or have you dated that guy? Because it's just so basic. It's like, oh yeah, he's abs. Everybody likes guys with abs. Like that's so, of course you're going to like him. That's the guy.
Here, well, what I was going to say is that Sheena asked me on the podcast that I did with her, who would be my type, or who would I want to date from the Bravoverse? And I said, absolutely no one. My type is not represented. And then I see a picture of this guy with the long hair. And I'm like, okay, take it back. He is hot. And everyone's like, oh, let's make this happen. But then I'm like, let's just wait, because I'm sure he's going to open his mouth and I will be completely turned off on episode 1. So let's just wait.
I mean, that is kind of the thing about Bravo. Like most, like, you know, it's like palatable to a degree, but it is interesting just being around these people. It's like when you're around Schwartz and stuff, like it's charming and stuff. But when you guys, you're around, like, it's kind of like, yeah, man. Okay. Like, it's like it's the same thing again and again and again. As we wrap up here, though, I mean, what do you think the future holds for is this the tip of the iceberg, or are we like almost done with this, in your opinion?
Every time I think it can't get worse and that we're done, something new comes out, right? So at this point, nothing will shock me, I guess. I don't know. Like I'm just prepared. I'm on edge. I don't think it's over. I don't think we're at the end of it. I think this is now going to be a thing all throughout all of this season. And now then the new episodes come out, and then they're doing the reunion next week, I think, which is going to be.
Wait, I keep trying to get that. Like, do you know why they're not waiting until after, if that hearing ever had, like, what, do you know why they're just not waiting? Like, do you think potentially Raquel doesn't want to be there? And they're like, I'm not trying to like start trouble, but I'm just like, why wouldn't they hold it until everybody can be there in the same room? Like, I don't understand that even from a business perspective. Do you?
I don't understand it. I know that none of the cast has any say in it whatsoever, because I even said to Sheena, I was like, hey, if you could take one for the team and do from Zoom so that Raquel can be
Wait, you told Sheena to take one from the team and do it for me? She's like, the F I will.
No, that wasn't her.
Wait, would Sheena do it from Zoom?
She would have, but it's not up to her. It's not up to her. So she has absolutely no say. And I don't think they want her to do it from Zoom. So it's absolutely
good. That's good, because my thing is like, I want to see, I mean, I know it'll probably be Raquel from Zoom. And I think that, because also I got to tell you this from a viewer's perspective, I don't know if I want to see Tom and Raquel come in holding hands. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, we've been through so much. I don't know if I want to see that, like it would just be really, really weird. And I would hate to see the camera cut to Ariana's reaction,
Yeah, it would. I mean, just the thought of it right now is making me sick to my stomach. I don't want to see it. But
okay, so
I'm sure many people actually do want to see it. They want that drama. So
I know it's like the car crash. And I mean, it is just fascinating. The season started, the season was already good. And it would like, I just always crack up about Sheena because it's like, I feel like Sheena has to fight her way in every season. And this was not the way but like Sheena was already integral by the third episode because of her podcast talking to Schwartz. And like now, because she was even saying like, I don't see a future for me and Katie, but then obviously they were together for that International Women's Day and hopefully, which will be a nice moment, but it's like, wow, this could actually bring people together that were already warring, who knows? But like, I want some kind of positive end or outcome of all of this. In terms of the podcast, though, listen, you're number one in Zimbabwe right now. You're number one in so many different locations. What is the temptation now, though, to go full Vanderpump, to go like, listen, for the.
I don't want to. I think the beauty of this, though, is that I have never preached to the choir about the things that I care about. So when I'm on Shenanigans and I'm talking about watch the Game Changers documentary or read this book, I'll just throw little things in there that I'm passionate about. And those people who are listening to Shenanigans, a lot of times this is the first time they're hearing that. Whereas, if I wasn't also pulling people in with that pop culture audience, I was just speaking to people who already thought the same way that I did, I would be speaking into an echo chamber. So I do appreciate and love when I can talk a little bit of reality, a little bit of pop culture, and then throw in the things that I care about as well. And what I'm learning is I'm attracting an audience that also cares about those things as well, but they also like reality TV. And it's definitely a niche, I guess. I don't know, but it's working, but I'm definitely not going to go full. I'm not going to take your job, Ryan. I will leave.
That was literally the answer I wanted. I was literally going like, I don't want to ask her just point blank, but I was like, at this point, she's got Zimbabwe on lock. I can't really get to it at this point, but that's what I'm saying. You're really fun, but that's what I'm saying. Like I keep, whenever I check out the podcast, whenever I check out your Instagram, there's so much more going on. And you seem like you're constantly striving for information and knowledge and things like that. And I think with the reality show audiences, we are so sophisticated now that we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yes.
So this could be the podcast for you guys. And listen, anyways, I was going to have Jamie on and all of her friends on because actually I believe in Sugar Taco and I believe in what she's doing even besides this. So she's actually doing me a big favor, but I will say Jamie has always been one of the nicest people to me. She is I'm just really nice, really trusting. She's always given me information that I've not actually even put out there. And I really consider her a friend. And so I just wanted to thank you so much for doing this. I know this is kind of icky potentially to keep talking about this. Any final thoughts that you would like to leave us with? Are you coming out with any merchandise like friend of Sheena or friend of yes,
Sheena's best friend number one.
Friend of is actually friend of would be a solid. I might do that merch. Anyways, the podcast is called Jamie All Over. What do we do for people that listen, that come on this podcast? We immediately rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's one of the easiest, simplest ways, just a click of the thumb to actually support something without paying $1. But what it does, it really helps podcasts, even mine, to actually get it in front of new people's faces, to actually have somebody click on it and go, I really like this person, because there's a podcast out there for everyone. And I think Jamie is doing an excellent podcast regardless of the Vanderpump stuff. So go support. Jamie, please come back on again when we can talk about the guy that's in Winter House that you're in love with. We'll just talk about that the whole time.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. And I just want to say that I'm looking forward to going to see both of our favorite bands together.
She loves Dashboard Confessional with a passion, and I love Counting Crows with a passion. And guess what? They just announced a co-headlining tour, and we're going to go.
We are. And it's a couple days before my birthday, so we're going to go hang out afterwards. It's going to be a full-on birthday extravaganza.
Wait. Can you do a Brock imitation real quick? I bet you have a good Brock imitation.
I don't. What do you want me to say?
No, because I just always go, hey, I'm Brock. What's going on, you guys? Hey.
You do like this Irish leprechaun for Brock. It's so silly. With the arms.
Okay.
Too.
Yes. He's like a motivational life coach. I love the guy. Okay. I'll talk to you next time.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.